And that's 9 months after you were told by NEFIT to remove the discretionary elements of travel in relation to testing post-arrival and in relation to quarantine.
A man in his 40s is being questioned by Gardaí in connection with a major drug seizure in County Meath. Over 10 kilos of cannabis worth €204,000 was discovered in Trim earlier in an operation targeting organised crime groups. And finally, in the UK, Reading and Leeds Festival organisers have confirmed the event is going ahead this summer. They've posted on news on Facebook following the British Prime Minister's announcement of his roadmap for lifting restrictions in England. Stormzy, Post Malone and Liam Gallagher are due to headline. It's 2 minutes past 8.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our best discounts on car insurance online. Go to the aa.ie.
Most areas will be dry tonight, but there'll be showers in western parts overnight. Lowest temperatures of 0 to 4 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now you're very welcome back. Later on we'll have Cian Tracy with us talking rugby. We've got a busy football show between 9 and 10, including Tim Vickery on the new Netflix documentary on Pele. But first, the Tiger Woods situation really grabbed everybody's attention very, very suddenly yesterday. Very happy to say Eamon Lynch is with us, columnist with Golf Week and USA Today Sports. You'll also see him on the Golf Channel regularly as well. Eamon, great to have you with us.
Thanks for the invite, Joe.
So look, thankfully this will not endure as a where were you type moment, because Tiger Woods is out of serious harm's way, although his injuries are significant. But for the time being, where were you when you saw the news yesterday?
I was actually just arriving home when I started to get texts from friends of mine who were hearing of this accident on the grapevine. So I called the newsroom at Golf Channel and at Golf Week, and then got a call from the Golf Channel producers and sat, I guess, on TV for 5 hours last night while we sort of tried to tackle this from every possible angle. But as you said, at least it was one of those stories that got incrementally better as the day went on and more information came out, because when you're first looking at the first reports about the jaws of life having to be used, and then you see the first images of what that car looked like after the crash, it's not the kind of thing that fills you with optimism to start the news cycle anyway.
No, it was very apparent very quickly it was serious. And then when Mark Steinberg confirmed multiple leg injuries and that he was in surgery, you realised, well, I mean, I 5 hours. What did you say after a while with very little information?
Well, at a certain point, Joe, you just assume that it's not the same people who were watching 4 hours ago, so you start to repeat yourself after a while.
I'll bet. So what we do know now is a bit more detailed. Open fractures affecting the tibia and fibula bones in his lower right leg. They've been stabilised with rods being inserted. Significant injuries all down the right leg. We're hearing of communicated fractures rather of the tibia and fibula. So that's multiple fractures throughout. It's not a clean break effectively. And then not to make anyone put them off their dinner, but not a clean break either. So an open fracture, I mean, it's broken through the skin, and the shattered ankle doesn't sound promising either. Pins there could be issues down the line with mobility by all accounts. He may have to have that fused. So, I mean, lucky to be alive, and so it's great that he's alive, but for his golfing career at 45 years of age, it's just devastating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're in the position of trying to separate Tiger Woods the man from Tiger Woods the golfer, and the man, at least it appears now, is obviously not in a life-threatening situation. He's going to resume some kind of quality of life after he heals from this, but it may well be career-threatening for Tiger the golfer. As you said, he's 45 years old, and we're seeing a lot of these kind of, I think they're kind of lazy comparisons to Ben Hogan, who also famously survived a car crash in 1949, because Tiger has access to medical care and rehab care that is of a quality Ben Hogan could only have dreamed of in 1949. But not every accident is the same. Not every body or injury heals the same. And in Tiger's situation, it was clear we were not going to see him at the Masters this year. I think that was probably fairly certain based on the comments he was making at the weekend. It's doubtful we're going to see him at the Masters next year, and it's possible we might never see him at the Masters again, other than to show up on a Tuesday night and eat at the Champions Dinner. And there was a really interesting Twitter dissection of this morning by Dr. Bill Mallon, who is a noted orthopedic surgeon in the United States. And what makes him uniquely qualified to discuss this, Joe, is he played the PGA Tour for 3 years back in the 70s. So he's very much attuned to what the body needs to do to play golf at an elite level. And he didn't seem particularly concerned about the fractures. His focus of concern was on the ankle and the foot, particularly if the ankle joint and if it has been shattered and if that's where the pins are going in, and the potential for future arthritis in the foot that would limit even the ability to walk without pain or discomfort. So that's actually where a guy who's qualified to speak on this said he would put his focus. But at the very least of time, he said he tells his patients that with a major injury, that recovery is going to take at least a year. So put that onto the situation Tiger was already in with a very dicey back. That, you know, he said 2 days before the accident that he was waiting on the results of another MRI to see when he could next play golf. So he's not starting from a good position, and he's 9 years older than Ben Hogan was when he had his accident way back then. So it just doesn't look awfully promising certainly for the near term, and maybe not even for the long term.
No, it doesn't. And back pain after an accident like that doesn't always manifest in the immediate 24 or 48 hours afterwards. I mean, you saw the wreckage of the car. We're hearing about the nature of the accident, a rolling vehicle, and then presumably a fairly tuttering halt at some stage. I mean, for his back to come through all of that unscathed in the short term, medium term would be a major result as well. I mean, that remains to be seen. We're obviously more focused on the leg situation because they were the immediate concerns. What do we know about the accident today that we didn't know yesterday?
Nothing, in short. I mean, it was very clear yesterday from the LA County Sheriff's press conference that the traffic investigation will take weeks, if not months. And the reality is you very seldom learn all of the details of a single car crash. And this one, it seems very odd. To me, the most odd part of it that people seem to be focusing on was that the brakes were not applied, according to the sheriff, that there was no attempt to halt the car. So he hits a sign, he goes across oncoming traffic, even though it was an empty road, rolls over, shears off a tree, and ends up down an embankment. And this is all on a perfectly clear day with no weather conditions on an empty road in Los Angeles at 7:15 in the morning. There's a lot of questions about it and a lot of potential answers. I mean, it could be just simply distracted to some degree, but because of Tiger's past record, you see a lot of fairly wild accusations being thrown around as well. It's not beyond the realm of decency to ask the question about impairment, which was asked frequently during yesterday's press conference, because everything has to be seen in context. And the context with Tiger is that 4 years ago he had a DUI arrest where he had, according to the toxicology reports, 5 different drugs in his system. So it's not unreasonable to ask about the possibility of impairment. Yesterday, it's the assumption that a lot of people are making that he had to have been impaired seems a bit outlandish and reckless until we actually see what the investigation brings forth.
Yes, the LAPD said there was no evidence of impairment, but there were no bloods taken given the seriousness of the situation. At the time, his health was the main concern at that stage. It was interesting as well, they were pretty open, the LAPD, about the fact that this stretch of road is just a bit of a nightmare. They have accidents here all the time, often at high speeds. In the LA Times, you have locals saying things like, oh yeah, look, this is a death trap, this place. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a side point, but you'd wonder why they don't do something about it.
Yeah, and it was interesting because last night on the show on Golf Channel, we had on a sports professor who actually lived in that area, and he claims that he, driven this particular stretch of road many thousands of times. And he said and insisted that the point where Tiger crashed on it was, he would describe it as slightly downhill, whereas Sheriff had implied that it was a much steeper decline that Tiger was going on. So he couldn't quite figure out why it was on that particular stretch of the road versus another more accident-prone stretch that this had happened. But, accidents happen. The very nature of them is random, and where they are. There's just, I think that where this is going to become potentially problematic is we've gotten a lot of detail by Tiger standards in terms of the medical procedure, particularly the statement they released overnight that you just detailed there in terms of the injuries and the surgeries. But historically, Tiger and his manager, Mark Steinberg, have drawn a veil over anything more than that, anything particularly private or detailed. This is a man who named his yacht Privacy. And, it's a man who said he loved to go scuba diving because the fish don't know who he is. So he's not prone to give away any details here, and that kind of will fuel a lot of speculation, because are we going to hear from Tiger as to what actually happened or what his memories of the situation are, or are we going to get any more details in terms of his recovery, or is it going to be the kind of typical cat and mouse game about personal details that Tiger has preferred to play over the years? And my guess is it's more likely to lean towards the latter than the former.
Yes, I would share that sense as well, and there'll be a focus on the recovery and on the physical side, and less focus on how it happened.
Yeah, I don't think Tiger, well, even if he knows what happened, because he doesn't necessarily have an instant recall of what is a fairly traumatic event. None of us might be able to respond in that way, but he's just disinclined, I think, to let people in any great detail, and that also feeds the kind of worst corners of social media when it comes to the rumor mongering and the wild speculation, because Tiger acknowledged that his DUI arrest 4 years ago in Florida had a link to abuse of prescription pills, that he sort of become a little overly reliant on them and sort of wasn't in control of his medications, and said he was going to seek treatment for that.
Yeah. And
that ended Tiger's confessional aspect about that. He never gave any more details about that and declined to address it in public ever again. And that's his right. He's perfectly able to do that and entitled to do that. But the lack of transparency just feeds the kind of rumor mongering that you see out there about, as people, the kind of people who were expert epidemiologists last week are suddenly now opioid experts this week. And it's an unfortunate side effect of it, but I guess that's the cost of living in the public eye.
Yeah, it is. And there is the context of 2017, as you say. It has led to a flurry of people looking back on his interview with Jim Nance at the Genesis on Sunday and looking for signs of somebody who maybe needed medication again after his back surgery in December. But at that point, none of us really can say anything with any certainty. So look, that's for him and the police to sort out if needs be. As for his recovery, I mean, the sense I got from the players was they looked at all the injuries and they shared the reservations anybody would have about his return to golf. And yet they all said pretty much to a man, if anyone they know has the mental fortitude to painstakingly come back and go through the daily rehab again and again and again, it might just be Tiger Woods.
I think that might have been true at one point, but there has to be a tipping point somewhere along the way, Joe, and I think there's a reasonable question as to whether or not Tiger will even want to play golf at the highest level again, because if there is a diminished quality of life that he's able to have physically with his recovery here, he's still got young kids. He might just turn around and say, you know what, this is what I'm going to devote what physical capacity I have to, is to doing as much as I can with my kids while they're still young, rather than the physically exhausting and demanding task of trying to be an elite golfer.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of those guys make that kind of analysis yesterday, saying, if anybody can come back, he can. And Rory was asked about that in his press conference about an hour ago down in Florida, and Rory's response was quite telling. He said he's not Superman. And just because he's done it in the past doesn't mean he can do it again. And in the past, it was wear and tear of the act of being an elite golfer. It was not traumatic injury, which I think is very different and potentially has much longer lasting impact, and potentially even a psychological impact that would have to be reckoned into it as well. So I don't think this can be as readily compared to the past comebacks Tiger has had to make, because he's never been in this kind of situation before. It's a whole new world even for him. Yeah,
it's a very fair point. I mean, ultimately, I think Rory made the point as well. Let's just be glad he's alive. I mean, that's literally what we're all saying here. I mean, the tragedy for his family, if the outcome had been more serious, the tragedy for friends, for all concerned, and not least for a guy, and this is the question, you're around the tour, you talk to different players, for a guy who has come through an extraordinary childhood and adulthood and fallen into some pitfalls and made some very human mistakes, and who is anybody to judge? And it seems Eamon genuinely come out the other end in a pretty well-adjusted way. I mean, he's gone, certainly on tour it seems, from being a legend even from his amateur days, but an aloof, unapproachable legend, to now A pretty popular, much-loved legend that all the younger guys are in awe of, but equally feel, like he's a great person to be around, and he's enjoying that too. Like he just kind of coming into a really interesting, nice phase of his life.
Yeah, and people would not have said that of Tiger for a long time. I remember David Flaherty had a great line once where he said they are in awe of Tiger, but they love Phil. And it may be a little closer to the kind of the love or sporting admiration for Tiger now than it was before. And a lot of people I know who spend time around him have said since his most recent back issues in the last couple of years, and the point where he wasn't even sure that he would physically be able to walk with ease again, much less play golf, that he returned from that experience somewhat more humbled. It doesn't always show itself certainly in public comments. It certainly doesn't show itself on the golf course, because he clearly still wants to step on the throat of everyone else who gets in his way, and we saw that at the Masters almost 2 years ago now. But he's definitely a changed figure. I guess that comes with age and having been humiliated to some extent and become a little bit more reflective. But I also think what's interesting from watching all of these guys talk about him, they're all talking about this guy who's a legend. And the one thing every sports fan would like when it comes with legends is that they actually get to quit on their own terms. And not every athlete gets to go out on their high. I mean, the old Red Sox legend Ted Williams hit a home run in his last at-bat, and Pete Sampras took the US Open trophy home and never played again, hung up his rackets. But a lot of times that doesn't happen, even for the very best. And sometimes injury or accident can dictate the terms of when a career comes to a close. And for a long time, it has seemed that injury could dictate the terms of the end of Tiger's career. And then we had this beautiful high where he won the Tour Championship at the end of 18, and then wins the Masters in 19. And suddenly you're allowed to hope again that there's another chapter here. But I wouldn't be as optimistic that chapter is going to be as long as the ones that preceded it, frankly.
No, probably not. Thankfully, it may only be his golf career that ends. So, Eamon Lynch, as ever, brilliant to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Hate missing out? News Talk Extra is news, entertainment and all the latest podcasts, plus expert tips and competitions straight to your inbox. Subscribe now at newstalk.com/extra.
Banking on your bank always giving you the lowest loan rate? Well, think again. Spend less with Ireland's lowest rate on personal loans over €20,000 from Avantcard. With a loan from Avantcard, you could be saving thousands.
Apply today at avantcard.ie. Lending criteria, T's and C's apply. New applications only. Info correct 18th of January 2021. Source ccpc.ie. Avantcard DAC trading as Avantcard is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
First words, first steps, first full sleep in ages. There's a lot you won't want to miss. Just like our amazing offers at Dunnes Stores. This week only, it's buy one, get one free across the Pampers Activfit nappies and pants range. And get Water Wipes Bio Baby Wipes 9-pack for just €20. Plus, with our 10 off 50 grocery voucher, you save even more. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €50 or more.
DoneDeal has the largest range of premium cars in Ireland from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships. That's why you will find Leinster's Frank Keane Volkswagen on DoneDeal. Stop by and connect with Frank Keane Volkswagen on DoneDeal today, and they will deal directly and deliver safely to you. DoneDeal, for deals to feel great about from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships.
RTE belongs to all of us. It's for each and every one of us.
And RTE wants to hear from you.
About what matters to you.
And about what you want from RTE.
RTE is preparing a new public service statement. That statement will be our commitment to you. So we want to hear what you think.
This is your chance to take part.
It's a chance to have your say.
Join in now at rte.ie/have-your-say. RTE. It's yours.
Bargaintown are now delivering our famous range of pocket coil mattresses nationwide. See our brand new website for more details. Bargaintown.ie.
If you are aged 80 or over, you'll be offered a free COVID-19 vaccine next. You don't need to register in advance. As soon as your vaccine is available, your GP will let you know. Everyone else will be offered the vaccine when it's their turn. If you have